Hello, everyone, and welcome to another rad episode of the Striped Sweater Podcast, where the best time to listen is all the time. I'm one half of your co-hosts, Diet Dr. Kelp, Zach Main, and I'm here with...
Alex, I break for sea urchins, Beardsley.
And we're here to talk about two more of what could be some of the greatest episodes in the history of SpongeBob. We're really hitting the really popular ones early. I feel like all of these are really big and people remember them.
Yeah, I was saying, I think Pizza Delivery is probably one of the most remembered episodes of the show, period, at least from this time period. It seems like everybody remembers this one.
Everyone remembers the singing, I think, the most.
Yeah, the singing, and pizza, everyone loves pizza. It's worth noting that this episode, Pizza Delivery, was the very first concept for an episode that Steven Hillenburg and the gang came up with. Before they came up with Help Wanted, Hillenburg pitched this idea of SpongeBob and Squidward being on a road trip stuck together. It was inspired by the 1989 film Pow Wow Highway, which I have not seen. I'm sure you probably haven't either. I had never even heard of it before this. I don't think it's a very popular film necessarily, but it's something I might be interested in checking out now that I know that. So that was what it was inspired by, but eventually they, they continued to talk about different pitches and things, and they came up with Help Wanted for their initial pitch to Nickelodeon. And
yeah, then we also have Home Sweet Pineapple, which you might not know what it is just based on the name, but it's definitely one that I think people remember.
Nematodes stick out. Actually, This one actually does really stick out for me a lot. When I was younger, I did like to draw a lot, even though I don't draw that much anymore. And I remember actually becoming very good at drawing SpongeBob because I loved SpongeBob so much. And I specifically remember being in school one day and drawing a scene from this episode with Patrick in his fancy garb, his Sunday's best, if you will.
Spoiler alert.
It was just really funny to watch this again and be like, oh yeah, I remember drawing this like as a kid, Just a funny memory.
I felt like I was never really good at drawing SpongeBob, like freehand. I would always get something wrong with it, and now I think obviously I've gotten better with drawing.
Zach did the artwork for our podcast, the Striped Sweater Podcast logo. That's him, and it's pretty good stuff, if I would say so.
Thanks, dude.
And in my opinion, I'm not nearly as talented with the art, the fine arts. But
maybe this should be a time, since we don't really have a lot more to talk about in the intro, to maybe talk about our backgrounds as our school backgrounds
as human beings. Well, in the Plankton episode, we talk about how we both went to college.
Right, but we never talked about what we did in college.
I actually did briefly mention that I have a film degree. I went to Wayne State University, which is a university in Detroit, Michigan. That's about it. I mean, I went there and I did a lot of stuff and I made a lot of projects, nothing that I'm super proud of, and I haven't really done anything that I'm really proud of since, besides this podcast, which thank you for listening and thank you for the kind words for the few of you who have reached out and told us we're doing a good job, because it means a lot and it's fun, it's good to hear that people are enjoying your product. That being said, don't go to college for a film degree unless you're absolutely positive that you're going to devote your life to movies and shit forever, because that's what I thought I was going to do, and it's realized I wanted to do a lot of other things besides that. But that's just me. I can't devote myself to any one thing. It's just a personal trait of mine.
Yeah, whereas I went to a school too shitty to deserve a plug on a podcast for a degree in video game production.
Because it doesn't exist anymore, correct?
That branch of it doesn't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
You should have went to Full Sail, bro. I actually thought about going to Full Sail.
I worked with somebody who went there.
No kidding. Yeah, no, I actually did. My mom got me a package from Full Sail and stuff, and was like, "You can go here, you know, for film and whatnot." Looking back on it, it probably would have been a good idea. But
For those of you listening that don't know, Full Sail is where they film all the NXT stuff, which is the minor leagues of WWE, so to speak.
and it's centrally located near the WWE Performance Center, which we
In
have both
Florida.
mentioned that we are independent professional wrestlers. And
Yeah, that's
so
why it's
that's
funny.
kind of a shared dream with us as well.
Yeah.
The whole wrestling, wanting to be a pro wrestler, you know, and it's pretty cool. You know, wrestling is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. And if you're listening out there and you want to be a pro wrestler, I urge you to go for it, but be ready for a lot of trials and tribulations and hardships, because you're guaranteed to face them.
Yeah, hardest thing we've ever done in our lives, going through wrestling.
Yeah,
school.
wrestling school was legitimately the hardest thing. Like, I had to push myself so hard to show up every day. But I wanted it, you know? I really, really wanted it.
Every day was the most painful day of my life.
Exactly,
for
dude.
For probably half a year.
And looking back on it, it's like, how did I even do it? Because I feel like now I'm such a wimp about pain and stuff. But I've gotten injured a lot wrestling. So it's like... And that's another thing. Get ready to get injured and pay a lot of money for medical bills if you don't have insurance.
Yeah, I was still training on 4 broken ribs. I'm so stupid.
That's insane. No, and I remember hurting myself a couple times in practice or in training. I never really hurt myself as bad as you did, but of course yours was someone else's fault. I never really had that issue. The guy I trained with would hurt himself every day, basically, because he couldn't ever land properly. Which is
Yeah.
funny because he's like way more successful than either of us now.
Yeah.
But and it's not even funny. It's just the way it goes. You know, wrestling is a very, very weird thing, but you know, I love it. I do. It's definitely a part of who I am, and it goes very deep, you know, into the early childhood development and all that. But I think we've probably yammered on.
Well, to
enough.
circle back, I went to school. I'm a professional VR developer now. I do it for a living. So my schooling did pay off, even though it's not in the same field. Just do something you want to be able to do and apply it wherever you
Yeah,
can.
and I mean, that's the thing. Like, I did learn a lot of skills that should help me. I mean, like, I edit this podcast and all that, and I'm not super privy with audio necessarily, but editing is something I think I'm fairly decent at. And I learned how to do that in college, you know. I mean, but that being said, you can basically teach yourself how to do it. It's not rocket science.
It's just getting the job part is hard without the degree.
And even with my degree, it's very hard to find a job. I mean, maybe if I moved to California or something, I'd have better luck, but that will probably not happen in the near future. But we'll see. That always was a goal of mine, to get out to California.
Me too. Maybe
no
one
kidding.
day.
No kidding. Maybe we can go together.
Aw. So sweet.
Sweet
Okay.
boys.
So, yeah, I think it might be time.
What do you say? Do we dive right into pizza delivery, my friend?
Let's dive.
All right, Zach. Are you ready?
Aye, Alex. Bump that shit.
Bump that shit. Bump that shit.
And we're back.
All right, gang. This is
Pizza delivery.
Pizza Delivery, episode 5A. This originally aired on August 4th of 1999. Worth noting that at this point in time, SpongeBob episodes were coming out every week. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Before that, it was like every 2 weeks or every month or whatever. They were kind of sporadic at the beginning. But this was when we were getting into nitty gritty of it, and we were enjoying new episodes every week. What a time to be alive that was.
Think about this. Every time our podcast comes out, that's when a new episode of SpongeBob would be out.
What?
You know, we're on like the same time schedule. So
Oh my gosh.
the gap between our episodes is going to be like how it was when they would actually come out
Yeah, that's fun.
and evolve.
It's too bad that we can't sync it all up with the holiday episodes, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because we recently had Valentine's Day, and I think in probably another month or two, we will be talking about the Valentine's Day episode. But back to what I was saying, runtime was 10 minutes and 45 seconds. Storyboard director is Sherm Cohen, storyboard artist Aaron Springer. Written by those two gentlemen along with Peter Burns, and the animation director was Sean Dempsey. Creative director, take a wild guess.
The driest man in all of the lawn.
That's correct.
Derek himself.
Derek, Double D, Derek Drymon. All right.
And thanks to Double D, we start with a shot of the Double K.
Double K, you're correct. The Krusty Krab. So we are. This is nighttime.
Yep.
Which I think we've
Closing
seen
time.
a couple shots of Bikini Bottom at night, but this is the most, the longest scene at nighttime, I would say.
Yeah. Although SpongeBob walking through the buildings and stuff with Plankton was kind of long.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, that was night, but this looks a little bit different. This is almost like twilight. Like there's a
Yeah.
bit of light still in the sky.
Yeah, they just closed.
Right. Yeah. It's closing time. Squidward wants to go home.
Yeah, he wants SpongeBob to hurry up with those chairs, but he's cleaning the table.
SpongeBob is wiping the table, and there's a cool animation where you get the reflection
Yeah.
of SpongeBob in the table. So he's really cleaned the shit out of that thing.
I think it's funny too because they're like putting the chairs on top of the tables as you do in a restaurant, but they're just big barrels that people sit on.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
just putting the
right.
barrels on the tables.
It doesn't have the same effect, but I assume someone would have been sweeping or mopping the floor. Probably SpongeBob.
They were getting to it, I guess, but
Right.
But they're interrupted by a phone call, and SpongeBob's so excited to go answer, and he runs, I got it, and he goes to grab it, and then Squidward picks it up, and he's like still in the air, and then he kind of falls down.
Squidward answers the phone, tells the guy we're closed. Krabs, at this point, enters and snatches the phone from Squidward's hand. And basically takes this guy's order, because we all know that Mr. Krabs, well, at this point, it's almost not super established that he's super greedy. We see glimpses of it in Help Wanted and a couple other episodes, but like we've said, there's a few times where he just throws a plate away. You know, he does things that he
Gives
wouldn't
away
do.
hats.
Yeah, he gives things away and gets rid of things that he normally wouldn't because he's a cheap son of a bitch.
But this is a real good first test of him being really cheap, as you see his eyes literally turn into dollar signs.
Yeah.
As he hears this guy wanting a pizza, and he tells him that the delivery squid will be on the way.
Right. And Squidward is like, Mr. Krabs, we don't serve pizza. Like, what the heck? So Krabs grabs a plate of Krabby Patties and like mashes them up with his claw, and somehow that creates a pepperoni and mushroom pizza with cheese.
And then he's just holding that, and then he makes a whole box and everything to surround
Yeah,
it too.
he just manifests a box out of gosh only knows where.
Hello? Sorry, sir, we're closed. Ahoy there, Krusty Krab. How can I help you? Pizza? Of course we have pizza. Mr. Krabs. Our delivery squid will bring it right over. Mr. Krabs, we don't serve pizza. We don't deliver. We don't deliver, but you do. Can't you just get SpongeBob to do it? Great idea. Take him with you. That's not what I had in mind.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
right.
times.
So now they go out to the company boat.
Yeah, which is not something I think we ever see again. Maybe, but yeah.
I assume
mean,
Krabs owns it.
apparently Krabs bought, but as you can see, it's not necessarily in the best shape. It's probably like a used boatmobile, like the tire has a patch on it. There's like a bumper sticker that probably was there before, which was my little thing that I said at the beginning. It says, I brake for sea urchins. the
Yeah,
bumper
and we
sticker.
see it when SpongeBob's doing his check of the boat. He's
Yeah.
like, well, here's the front, here's the back, here's the
Yep.
bumper, here's the bumper sticker. He's just going
Yeah.
check, check, check.
And then he checks the tire pressure.
Yeah, where
and
he
pulls the plug and puts his mouth on the thing while it lets the air out.
and he inflates to be like 30 feet tall.
Yeah, he inflates and he's like floating around.
And he's just like, and then he just lets all the air out and gets small and just goes like,
he exhales right into Squidward's face the whole time. All of that air is blown right into Squidward's face, and Squidward is totally not happy about it. He really wants to get the heck out of here and go home.
But SpongeBob's excited. He even says they're making history.
Yeah.
But Squidward's going to make SpongeBob drive. And as we've seen, he's not a good driver at all.
We already know this, as we learned in the previous episode.
Although if Squidward really helped him out the way Patrick did and just thought out loud for him, he'd probably be fine, right?
Yeah, Squidward, it's funny because even though he's so eager to get home, he's like, if you were so eager to get home, you should have just done this yourself. But he's being like a lazy jerk about it, you know.
Plus, he could have map quested it.
I suppose.
For all of you kids out there who are young, MapQuest is a thing where when you couldn't have internet everywhere with you, you would print out directions to go to somewhere, and they'd give you turn-by-turn directions.
Yeah,
which would have been popular around the time of this, maybe?
Potentially. I'm sure
the
it
beginning
existed
stages.
at this time. Yeah, it probably existed.
And before that, they used maps.
Yeah.
Scary.
Oh my gosh. Archaic. Yeah.
And they don't show you where you're at on the map.
Yeah, right.
Hardest
You
part.
just have to figure it out.
No, like, you are here.
Or stop for directions. Ooh.
Oh, jeez. As a man, stopping and asking for directions is my worst nightmare.
There's a whole episode of Home Improvement about that. Tim refusing to stop for directions, and they end up stopping at the same gas station twice because he's so lost. But
yeah, SpongeBob's like, well, what do I do first? And Squidward's like, back it up.
Yeah,
and I remember this line, like, specifically, just the back it up.
Right.
And he's like, huh?
And he looks down at the shifter and the forward and reverse, which is how it is on an actual boat. It's just like forward, reverse, basically. Changes into a foreign language, which, according to my research, is Korean, and it actually says the words for forward and backward. So the artists actually did their research and translated those words correctly. So SpongeBob is like kind of getting nervous, like by Squidward constantly telling him to back it up. So he's like, okay, he kind of like has like a weird meltdown almost real fast and is like, okay, backing up. And
he
then
throws it in reverse and just keeps flooring it.
Yeah. He's learned nothing from his most recent trip or his most recent test at Mrs. Puff's boating school.
Yeah, so he flies backwards so far that they run out of gas, and Squidward apparently doesn't do anything during this time and just enjoys the ride.
Just allows him to continue backing up all the way out of town. Yeah,
they even go over some rocks, and they get to like backing up.
So they back up, and the boatmobile, comes to a halt.
Well, you backed up. And you know what? I think we're out of gas. And you know what else? We're in the middle of nowhere!
And you know what else? I think the pizza's getting cold.
And the pizza's cold. Oh, the pizza's cold, not the pizza.
Well, it's worth noting that it is daytime at this time. So they
Yeah,
were literally driving all night long.
This guy's pizza should definitely be cold.
Yeah, it would be, it would be crusty at this point already.
Or they just went to a place where it happened to be daytime. I don't know how
potentially, I guess, maybe. Or weird. I don't know. I guess you could theoretically say like, oh yeah, who knows?
Right, there was like a big boat over top of them, like that's why there was so much shadow at nighttime.
Maybe, yeah. I guess
like a yacht.
Right.
We don't know.
So SpongeBob is like, you know what? We're still gonna deliver this on foot, and they begin to walk. And
first he kicks the boat, Squidward, out of frustration.
Yeah.
And then the gas meter goes up and it drives away.
Yeah, it
suddenly it gets into drive instead of reverse.
It suddenly regains gas, is shifted into drive, and then drives itself away. So yeah,
Probably a feature Mr. Krabs implemented to not have anyone steal his car. Or his
potentially.
boat.
But that is how boats work. If you've ever driven one, it's just forward and back, and it's like it's just gonna go.
Yeah.
As long as it's in gear, it's just gonna start moving. So. But yeah, it's funny how it just magically gets filled up with gas.
And then we get the beginning of SpongeBob singing the Krusty Krab pizza song.
And I don't like to throw the word iconic around too lightly, but I would say that this is probably an iconic thing in the SpongeBob universe.
Yeah. People remember the songs.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I remember being a kid, I actually made a mixed CD of a bunch of songs from SpongeBob that I must have got off Kazaa, which is like the proto LimeWire.
Yep.
And it's funny, I recently at my parents' house was going through all their old CDs and organizing them for them because I'm a good son. And I actually found that CD. I still have it. It's labeled Band Geeks because it has
that's cool.
the Band Geeks song on it. But it's funny. I love this show so much that I wanted to make a mixed CD of all the songs in it. And I remember this one being on there.
Well, we can still deliver it on foot. Ow, ow, ow. The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me. The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza.
And my feet are killing me. Whoa!
And then they stop. Then SpongeBob's head is on the ground.
Yeah, he puts his, so to speak, his ear to the ground as a Native American might have done in some days.
A pioneer.
But
if
in
you
this
will.
case, we will call them a pioneer, indeed. SpongeBob senses something, and it's a
Because he
truck.
can hear a truck, and he can tell that it has 16 wheels.
Yeah, so SpongeBob actually, he's got a skill here.
He said he saw it in a movie once.
Yeah, but I mean, it works, and he's correct. We see a big rig, and there's a frickin' swordfish driving this big rig. SpongeBob decides to show Squidward how they hitchhiked the pioneers. So suddenly he is wearing a 10-gallon hat, noticeably different than the 10-gallon hat that he wore in the boating school episode.
Yeah, this one's actually much taller.
Yeah, and it's a different color as well. I believe it's black as
Yep.
opposed to brown. He starts doing this weird dance and making these weird noises.
And Squidward even joins in and is playing on his lap.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he's like bored looking, but he's also playing like on his legs with his other tentacles.
No kidding. SpongeBob is in the middle of the road, and then the truck driver says something.
Freshing break dancers!
Yeah, and
and
then just honks the horn and expects him to get out of the way.
Right. SpongeBob is not aware of this and ends up almost getting hit by it. And we actually see a heroic, moment from Squidward where he saves SpongeBob's life, basically.
Yeah, he pulls him out, and then they're covered in sand. Right. Then the next shot is them walking through the wind. It's really heavy.
Yeah,
winds.
like a sandstorm.
So Darude's here, and they're walking through the sandstorm, and Squidward's nose keeps going different directions and being blown around until he finally shoves it up into his face more.
Oh, doesn't he?
funny.
I thought he puts it in his mouth.
No, I don't think so.
He puts his lip up over his nose.
Oh, is that what he does?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it looks super weird. I couldn't tell that's but it's his nose going through his lip,
Right.
super.
You still see,
far.
you still see the profile of his nose. So it is kind of a weird looking thing.
Yeah, but he does that. SpongeBob's trying to hold on to the pizza, and he's blowing away in the wind. And Squidward's like, just get rid of the pizza. And he's like, no, it's for the customer.
No.
Who cares about the customer? And SpongeBob says, I do. And
Yeah.
Squidward says, well, I don't.
Freeze.
And then SpongeBob freezes as he's being blown in the wind.
The storm even stops for a split second. Yeah.
And he just goes, Squidward. And then he keeps blowing again. I always love that.
He's totally appalled by the thought of Squidward not caring about the customer, which it's like, SpongeBob, you should know that Squidward doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. But that's SpongeBob's nature. He doesn't know. He doesn't really like. SpongeBob loves everybody and cares about everybody, so he doesn't understand. He can't even imagine not caring about someone.
Yeah, it is funny too. To play off of that, SpongeBob is wearing his uniform the whole time, right? His hat, and Squidward is not.
Well, it's weird because at the beginning, or when they first get in the boatmobile, Squidward says, "All right, you drive," and he gives SpongeBob his hat.
Yeah,
which is like, why weren't they both wearing hats to begin with?
Yeah, SpongeBob would never take his hat off.
It's kind of strange, right? So yeah, that's why. But I don't really understand what the purpose of that would be, other than Squidward wanting to be off of work and wanting to take his uniform off.
Yeah. So Squidward, which is funny, it's just a hat. That's their whole uniform.
Yeah, right. Like it's like such a burden to wear it.
Yeah. Squidward grabs onto SpongeBob to hopefully stop him from flying around, and instead they get sucked into a giant tornado.
Yeah,
and spit out.
The pizza acts as a sail.
Like a parachute.
Well, first it acts as a sail to carry them up.
Right.
They're all hanging onto it, and then acts as a parachute on the way down.
Only for SpongeBob.
Right.
And then Squidward's like, "Where's the road?"
And I just want to note the tornado spits them out like it's,
like actual spitting, like a mouth. Yeah.
Ding. Zach knows all about that.
Yeah, I spit
noise.
So yeah, then they're like, "How are we gonna find out where to go? There's no road." And
SpongeBob, the road, they're away from the road, and Squidward is kind of like freaking out a little
SpongeBob knows a thing or two though about pioneers. He says, "I think it's this way because Moss always points to civilization."
Which, I mean, at this point, who is Squidward to doubt SpongeBob? He did notice the 16-wheeler.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, so you're going to go that way? Well, then I'm going to go this way."
Yeah, he just is like, "Okay, yeah, whatever you do, I'm going to do the opposite."
And it's funny because they do actually end up somewhere, right? Because then this is the part people remember the most as they're leaving, is them, SpongeBob doing different renditions of the Krusty Krab pizza song that he just invented.
Right before this, though, Squidward does call SpongeBob Jethro for the first time, which, according to the SpongeBob
He does
wiki,
twice today?
Well, he says, "I think town's this way," and he says, "Oh, don't tell me, Jethro, the pioneers."
Oh, okay.
Which, according to the SpongeBob wiki, I mean, this might be a little bit of a long shot, but it might make sense. Jethro would be a reference to the Beverly Hillbillies. Jethro was Jed's cousin, or the son of Jed's cousin. He calls Jed Uncle Jed, but he's the one who drove the old jalopy to Beverly Hills. He took the Beverly Hillbillies to Beverly Hills. So I guess that's the reference, is that SpongeBob is trying to drive a rock, and he calls him Jethro because Jethro was the driver in Beverly Hillbillies.
And it's not a reference to Jethro Tull.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right, which most people probably only know would understand the word from Anchorman, where he plays the jazz flute and yells, "Hey, Aqualung!"
I think a lot of people know what Jethro Tull is, or at least they know the name. But no, yeah, that's a good reference. Anchorman's a classic film, and I do like that because he does do the, when he's doing his crazy flute solo, he does the do 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 do.
Yep.
You probably also know Aqualung from Rock Band if you're around our age. I think it was in Rock Band, right?
Harmonix.
Yeah, it was in Rock Band for sure.
Yep. So then, right, here's where we get the
Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza absolutively. Pizza, pizza.
And then we get the most memorable line of the episode, where he sings like a jazz musician.
I would say it's in the vein of James Brown. I really mainly just know him from the Blues Brothers movie, to be honest. My dad likes James Brown, but it was just never really my thing.
So here's the line.
Krusty Krab, yeah, 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 yeah,
And then after
Bickety
this,
bam.
after this, they're super tired and they're just walking, and he's like the Krusty and the Crab,
Yeah,
and the Pete's, and
they're
the
all
Za.
saggy.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's almost like implying that they've been walking for like days, or like at least a whole day. You know?
yeah. And then I thought this was funny because Squidward doesn't. I feel like he always calls SpongeBob by his full name, but here he looks over and just says, "Sponge." He calls him that for the first time this episode. So Squidward's like, let's just take a peek at the pizza, you know?
Just a peek.
And they look, and this is where we see that it's pepperoni and mushroom.
Yeah.
And we get a great scene where it's like looking from outside the box, and there's like a glow on their faces.
We see their faces from the pizza's point of view. Basically.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Pulp Fiction. Like you don't get
looking
like,
in
the
the
glowing
case.
gold.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But I don't think they ever do that camera angle. But I get what you're saying totally.
Yeah. Oh, and the cheese and
Yeah.
the pepperoni.
And I thought it was funny, like, their faces look hilarious in this episode, or in this part, just because of the way, the angle and all that. But Squidward is clearly, like, he's being dastardly here, and he's got, like, this villainous look on his face. He's, like, smiling, and he knows what he's doing. He's trying to convince SpongeBob, you know? He's trying to play on SpongeBob's hunger to get him to allow them to eat, basically.
Look at the image for this podcast to see what they look like.
Yeah, that's going to be the fun thing.
So then, they start, Squidward is telling him to give him the pizza,
Yeah.
and they start running. What are we going to do? And SpongeBob's like, in hard times, pioneers used to eat coral, and then Squidward just starts jamming coral in his mouth.
Yeah, just immediately without.
Yeah, they make it seem like it's like a hard stone type thing.
It's well, I mean, I guess when it's underwater, it's probably soft, right? But if you've ever felt coral that's been taken out of the ocean and used for decoration or whatever, it is hard like a rock.
Like a rock.
It's just funny too because Squidward up until this point has been totally against SpongeBob's like pioneer tactics, but here he's just like,
he's desperate.
Okay, I guess he is. Yeah, he's starving. So, desperate times call for desperate measures.
So yeah, he eats that, and then he's like, "Oh wait, maybe it wasn't coral. Maybe it was sand." And then he spits it out.
Yeah.
He's like, "Or was it mud?" Squidward gets mad, and he's
Yeah.
like, "No, I remember it was coral." But he's like, "Hand over the pizza. We're gonna eat this pizza,
Right.
and we're gonna be okay." And
No.
SpongeBob will not.
Yeah.
He's like chasing him around. He's like, "No,
Yeah.
no," and SpongeBob.
He's holding the pizza close to the vest, so
Yeah.
to speak.
And then after a couple runs, Squidward just like gets tired, and he's just like, SpongeBob, and he's just still running at the same
SpongeBob's still
speed.
running. No.
Yeah, and then not looking, he runs directly into him and falls on the ground.
Yeah.
And then he's holding it, and he's like, "Look, we're saved!" And it's just like, okay, you're
Saved.
just trying to get out of this.
Yeah.
But he's like, "No, really, we're saved." And the camera never pans over, and Squidward doesn't even look at it. He's just like, "You're full of shit." He's
Yeah.
like, "No." And he's like, "We're saved. We're saved." And he's jumping out of his pants.
And he starts to
In happiness.
sing a saved song where he splits himself in half and things.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about earlier how when he was dancing and he had like the square butt cheeks.
Oh,
I did think that was
yeah.
really funny.
Yeah, that's right. We missed that.
During one of the dances, he has like two separate butt cheeks that are both square and they're like moving separate.
Yeah.
And Squidward's just looking down at it.
So yeah, and it's funny too when he first says we're saved. He does a few push-ups, which I just think is funny
Yeah.
because it's like, okay,
Yep, splits himself up, comes back, changes into shapes. It's cool.
yeah. And Squidward is like, that's just a stupid boulder. And,
It's not just a boulder.
And this is to me very up there with the maybe an honorable mention for the line of the episode.
It's just a stupid boulder.
It's not just a boulder. It's a rock. A rock. A rock. It's a big, beautiful old rock. miles, and it's in great shape.
He's like totally emotional about it.
He's like, okay, you're telling me that these people thought that they could drive, and then SpongeBob drives over him on this boulder.
Yeah.
Such a dick.
He just right over him,
Flattens
flattens him. Yep.
Yep. Right, and he's like, rock.
Hold on there, Jethro.
That's what he yells as he's going back to SpongeBob.
Right.
So then they do drive together on the rock, which SpongeBob's great at driving, surprisingly.
Yeah, he can drive a rock, but he can't drive a boatmobile. That is funny. I never really thought of that. And SpongeBob can't wait to see the look on the customer's face, even though he was expecting a pizza at least one day ago.
Yeah. And it's this guy, he's kind of like out of shape. He's a fish. We've seen him before, right?
I don't know. According to the wiki, this is Tom, which is the chocolate fish.
He
which
does
is
kind
not,
of look like
it. He looks like him, but he's red. He's not green.
Look the same to me.
No.
I'm colorblind.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. That's right. But green and red look the same to you? Is that right?
Sometimes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did he look the same to you? Like legit?
Color-wise, I thought.
That's crazy, dude. He's red and he's not green.
All right,
Tom
moving
is,
on.
You know what I'm talking about, the chocolate fish, right?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Sexual chocolate, the fish.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy to me, dude. No, yeah, he's red. He's a totally different color. And I just thought it was worth noting that he has hair on his belly.
Yeah.
Which is
exposed.
What? Yeah. I don't know if that's ever a thing again in this series.
Yeah, so then he's like, here's your pizza, sir. And the guy's just like, oh, thanks. Doesn't even say anything about the time.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, where's my drink? What?
Yeah.
And then it's like, my drink? My Diet Dr. Kelp? And SpongeBob's looking through his order note. Even though he didn't take the order, he's looking through it. He's like, but you didn't order a...
It is worth noting that it is definitely the same voice as Tom, though, too. Because he goes, don't tell me you forgot my drink!
Yeah.
And it sounds
just
like when he does chocolate later on. We will get to that in quite a few episodes.
Yeah. And then... you pointed out that it did sound like he was still talking when when Mr. Krabs hung up on him.
Krabs hangs up the phone and he's still talking. So
maybe ordering his drink.
It is, that is put in there to make you think, oh, maybe he did order a drink. Actually.
How's he supposed to eat his pizza when he doesn't have a drink?
What a jerk. He
lives in the frickin' water.
And it's funny, it's worth noting too that at the beginning of the episode, Squidward says it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
And it is. You find out at the end of this episode that it's literally like right down the road from the Krusty Krab.
Not even.
Yeah, it's like across the street basically.
Yeah, it's like where the chum bucket is.
Yeah.
So he could literally just go back and get him a drink right now if he wanted to.
Yeah, this dude literally just waited for a day.
And he ordered delivery.
Yeah, right. It's like,
what
come
an
on.
Asshole.
Yeah, he's an idiot. And then
at closing time.
Yeah, he's a total jerk, but that's a real thing that happens in real life, you know.
Yeah.
People do this.
So then SpongeBob gets the door slammed in his face and he's like just standing there and Squidward's like, Sponge, are you okay? And he just like kind of shrivels up almost and then he starts crying.
Yeah.
And he falls forward and he cries a big puddle. And then he soaks it back up and then cries it all again.
He's really crying, too. I mean, this sounds like when you're a young child and you're just bawling uncontrollably.
Bawling.
Yep. And,
yeah, so Squidward is like, he's actually mad at the customer. He's on SpongeBob's side. They worked hard.
This is a nice episode in the sense that you do get, even though Squidward is a douche a few times, and he gets shit on a couple times as a result, he is like, I don't know, he is on SpongeBob's side all along. Like, he saves him from getting hit by the truck, and now he's like sticking up for him when he sees how upset SpongeBob gets.
Yeah. And he goes back up to the door with the pizza.
Yep.
And he's like, the guy's like, hey, I already told your friend I didn't want it.
I told your little friend I ain't paying for that.
Yeah, and Squidward just says, this one's on the house, and throws it in his face.
Yeah, basically, like, punches him in the face with pizza. He pies him, if you will.
And then he's so sweet. He lies to SpongeBob to make him feel better. He's like, yep, he took the pizza.
Yeah.
And no drink? Nope. Ate the whole thing in one bite.
Yep. Yeah.
Now let's go home.
Yep.
And he's like, are you kidding? We have just enough time to make it back to work. And he just backs up the rock, and they're right there.
In 1 second, they're at the Krusty Krab.
Yeah, and then Squidward ends the line with, oh, my aching tentacles.
Because he never got to go home that night. That's all he wanted to do was go home, and he had to spend all day and night with SpongeBob.
Yeah, not getting paid
So
for it,
I guess in the timeline of this episode, so to speak, they make it back to work in the morning. So it's like they're basically driving all night, and then all morning they're finding their way back.
Although the way SpongeBob says it, like back to work, it makes it sound like, you know, our shift is still going on. We should get back to work. There's no time to go home.
I guess that.
But they were closing up, you know.
But it is.
Crazy.
But it is daytime right
Yeah.
now, so it would be another day at the races, so to speak.
Yeah, true.
So that does it for pizza delivery.
Yeah,
Classic episode.
I would give that one.
I did really quick want to note that Squidward uses his left hand to pie face the guy. So Squidward is a lefty.
Does he? Huh. Well, he has multiple.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit ambidextrous, having four arms.
If he is left-handed, then he could be the perfect fry cook. Yeah, so I would give this episode probably 600 pieces of steamed coral if I were to rate it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I like this one. That being said, people really, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I feel like people love this one. And to me, I always liked it, but it's not like my absolute favorite, not by a long shot, but it's not bad at all. And that being said, there's really no bad episodes of SpongeBob, like we've mentioned in the past. And that trend continues with episode 5B, Home Sweet Pineapple. Runtime is 10 minutes and 47 seconds. Storyboard director Ennio Torreson Jr., not to be confused with Ennio Torreson Sr.,
Yeah, the big guy.
It's the same guy, but in this episode, they actually put Junior on the end of his name, because I guess he's a junior. In previous episodes, that wasn't there. Storyboard artist Eric Weiss. Written by these two gentlemen, along with Mr. Lawrence. Animation director was Tom Yasumi. And creative director, Double D, Derek Drymon.
For show.
So we open right up and we see a group of nematodes.
Yeah, we might not know that they're nematodes at first, but we find out pretty quick.
We see some green worm-like creatures jumping around on their ends. Not slithering like a worm would, but...
Yeah, they're like walking.
Yeah, they jump and
forward.
they are walking, as they will tell you.
Because they say what they do.
They say everything that they do.
Walking. And then one's just like, stop. Hungry. They're
So
all hungry.
they demonstrate that they operate on a hive mind type, basis.
Yeah. So
And I just looked this up just for fun, want to get it out there. Nematodes are the most numerous multicellular animals on Earth. It says a handful of soil contains thousands of microscopic worms.
yikes.
Anyway.
So there's a boat driving toward them, and they just all get up together and they eat it.
And it's Fred driving the boat, and he
he just says, "Oh, dang nematodes!"
Yeah,
and
he's just-
literally just he's floating.
He's
now.
still driving with no boat around him. He's
Yeah.
like still moving, and then
Hopefully, it doesn't hurt his leg.
yeah. So anyway, nematode, the leader of the nematodes, if you will, declares that he is thirsty. And they all bounce around, and what do we see? But SpongeBob's pineapple.
Yeah, they all get little straws, right?
They pull little straws out, little plastic straws that they found from all the human pollution, I
Makes
imagine.
sense. Yeah. And they start sucking away the pineapple.
Start sucking right away. And they suck that thing dry, let me tell you.
They really do. It starts shrinking. The whole house does, and then you look inside, and SpongeBob's little treasure chest is sinking.
Objects begin
shrinking.
sinking. And worth noting, we get the second appearance of Shelly the Scallop.
Barely. There's like a very tiny bit. We can see the cage.
For a split second, you can see before the house totally shrinks, we see her cage hanging from the ceiling, and we see half of her little body. But she disappears within 1 second, basically, and is never mentioned or anything. So just a random thing they did, I guess. The animators did just to fill up that room a little bit, you know?
Yeah, so then we see the chest shrink, and then we see Gary's bowl shrink, and then SpongeBob's alarm goes off, and then it shrinks, and it gets like higher pitched higher pitched.
It makes different higher pitched noises as it shrinks.
Yeah, and then SpongeBob finally wakes up, and he's way bigger than the bed, and Gary's way bigger than everything too, and we get probably one of the lines of the episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I would say this is one of the funniest lines in the episode.
I didn't really remember it like before doing this, but watching it again, it's like it's hilarious because he says, "Look, Gary, we're finally huge," as if this is something they've been trying to do for so long.
Yeah, as if it's like a goal of theirs, a common goal of Gary and SpongeBob is to become huge at some point.
And they've been trying so hard. But then he's like, "No, everything's shrinking." And he's like, "Maybe I can call Squidward. Squidward will know what to do."
I imagine when Gary meows, he might be telling SpongeBob, like, "No, we're not huge.
Yeah.
The house is shrinking," because Gary always knows what's going on.
And SpongeBob can understand him.
Yep, and
they have an Ash Pikachu type relationship.
Yeah, they do. That's funny.
So yeah, he says, "I know. I'll call Squidward on my shell phone."
Yep,
which we've referred to it as before, but it is funny because it's more of a landline, even though it's a play on the word cell phone.
Yeah, right. It
is
it is like a home phone. And it's not the first time we see the shell phone. We do see the shell phone earlier. SpongeBob calls Patrick, and Patrick is like in his house.
Day.
Yeah, right. In the jellyfishing episode. But this is the first time they refer to it as a shell phone. SpongeBob calls Squidward to let him know that something is wrong. Yeah, I guess.
Squidward's in his nighties.
Yeah, he's
got a nightcap.
Yeah, that he always wears to bed. And Squidward goes, "Is it already time for you to ruin my day?" And then
and he's like, "No," but he tries to explain it to him.
He's trying to explain it, but the phone is shrinking in his hand, and it shrinks, and eventually it just right appears.
Hooray, Gary! We're finally huge! Huh? Wait a minute! Oh, no! Ow! Shell phone! I know! I'll call Squidward. He'll know what to do.
Hello?
Squidward!
Is it time already for you to ruin my day?
Squidward, help me! My house is shrinking. I woke up this morning and it was getting smaller. Oh, no!
Yep, it is.
Is it time already to ruin Squid's day?
And then his whole house is gone.
I love this line too. Patrick's rock opens up
Right after the nematodes all leave.
Yep, and worth noting that we do get the reoccurring gag of Patrick being on the rock and falling down and landing in his furniture. But he goes, "Is it time to ruin Squid's day already?"
Yeah, and he's wearing a suit coat and a bow tie and a hat. No shirt underneath.
Yeah, he like falls down into the thing and just comes up wearing his Sunday's best.
Yeah, as if like, this is what we had planned to ruin Squid's day.
Yeah,
we were going to do this thing today. But he wears it like most of the episode. It's kind of funny.
I always kind of took it as he fell down and just happened to, those clothes just happened to go on his body when he fell.
I thought of it as like, we're being
They had
obnoxious.
something planned,
yeah, this
right.
is what we had planned to do.
I guess it could be, it's kind of a combination of both, I guess.
So then all that's left of SpongeBob's house is one pebble. Squidward's also outside and Patrick's there, and SpongeBob's like, "Where am I going to go? Where am I going to live?" And then, he's explaining his house is gone, and then Patrick's eyes get really big, and and then he's like, "Hey, SpongeBob, your house is gone." Because
Classic.
he's just a slow dummy.
Classic Patrick. Squidward kind of sees this as ooh, your house is gone. That's
He's like,
good
"Oh,
for me.
I'm gonna go home and cry." And
Yeah.
he's like,
I'm gonna miss you. Boo hoo. Boo hoo. Boo hoo. Boo. Boo hoo.
Squid's taking it real hard.
he's like, "What am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to move back in with my mom and dad." And we get a cool little painting of mom and dad.
And
we
it's,
see them.
yeah, the first time we will see SpongeBob's parents.
Yeah,
at
they're
that moment.
they're more circular sponges. His
Yeah.
dad's kind of like pinkish.
That's
right?
kinda, yeah, I mean, he's like brown almost.
Yeah, and he's got like a mustache, I think, and glasses.
Yeah.
And the
That is
mom
funny,
has like
though, that they're
black
both
hair.
round and then they had a square son. Or is it just that you become round with age? I think that might be.
Oh, it could be.
Because grandma's round too,
Yeah.
I think. So.
Or maybe SpongeBob's not really in the family.
What? No, that's Patrick.
You don't know, man. SpongeBob was born one fine day with a wolf and a purr. Oh wait, no, that was Cat Dog. So then,
Also voiced by Tom Kenny, or at least Dog was.
So then we see the painting of them, and then Patrick's like, "No, you don't. Like, you don't have to live with them." And then it goes back to them, and they're both frowning. They're like, the painting of them is like, "Aw, SpongeBob doesn't get to move back."
Yeah,
with
yeah,
us."
yeah, right.
And then he's like, "Well, we'll build you a new house. I built my own house." And
Yeah.
then like his little antenna falls off his rock.
his TV antenna breaks.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick, let's get to work.
And then we get a cool little funny building montage.
This is like these are like the best gags in the episode, I think.
Yeah, it is a good montage, although I do firmly believe that most good montages have to have No More Mr. Nice Guy playing in the back, but it's still pretty good as is.
Are you talking about Dazed and Confused?
No. Just
What-
life in general.
what is that?
Everything needs it.
No, it needs the Team America montage song.
Also good.
So yeah, we get a montage, but it is worth noting that there is a montage of what's his face, Mitch from Dazed and Confused getting paddled to the song No More Mr.
Yeah.
Nice Guy.
Good movie.
I love that movie, even though watching it now it's not as good as I remember it, but it's still
It is cool though that as we get older, that movie still stays the same age.
it is true.
All right,
There's
all
a lot
right.
of good. It's a very quotable movie. Just like Martha Washington, you know, she would have a big fat bowl ready for George every day when he got home.
Of cereal.
Yep.
So
she was a hip lady.
So we get to SpongeBob. The way that he decides to start helping is he paints one half of him green, paints one half of him red, and then goes on a fence of wooden boards and just randomly plasters his like painted self on them.
It makes no sense, but
What the heck?
I do love when he puts the face part of him. You actually
Yeah.
can see like his crudely drawn version of himself.
Yeah.
On the thing, like his features. And then he's tightening some weird, like, pipe, I guess,
Yeah,
for, like, running
sticking
water
out of
or
the
something.
Sand. Yeah.
And he's tightening it, and it rotates the whole world around him. And,
Yeah.
and Patrick, like, falls off the surface of the ocean. And then
Yeah.
once he comes back around, like, comes plopping down.
It's perfect.
That's
It's-
pretty funny, yeah.
Right. Then he's like, takes one board, moves it over, nails it down,
Yeah.
gets another board and keeps doing it.
He's floating in midair.
Yeah, we find
just-
out he's in the air.
just nailing these boards together, and they're like wobbling, and they keep the far ones keep falling.
Yeah, and
where do they
Patrick's
fall?
underneath. He keeps like trying to hammer in this nail into a board, and
Yeah.
it falls on him, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll just move backward." It's
Yeah.
obviously falling wood planks here, and then he just keeps moving under the new ones that are falling from SpongeBob's thing.
Good practice by Patrick having a hard hat on, but it doesn't help him in this case since the boards keep landing on his hand. And then we get the finished product, a
Yeah.
sparkly, shiny, beautiful looking pineapple.
And Patrick gives him the thumbs up, which is covered in bandages.
And it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a great looking pineapple, really fantastic looking. And then he's like, I wish that was my house.
Yeah.
And then they walk up. He's like, really? And he's like, SpongeBob's bigger than the house.
Yeah.
He's like,
just
nope.
it just fits on his head like a hat, basically. And his nose sticks out through the door.
Yeah, he's like, one bedroom.
Yeah.
And then it all like breaks around
It
him.
breaks like glass.
He's like, you know what? That's it. I gotta go to my parents' house. And Patrick's like, no, you don't. You can live with me. I've lived by myself since my parents kicked me out. He said his parents kicked him out of their house.
Yeah, yeah.
And we assume, obviously, by the willingness to take him back and the good nature, that SpongeBob's parents didn't want to kick him out.
Right.
He just ended up leaving.
Yeah.
Growing up.
And then we get the line, yeah, we'll be rock mates, which I just quick personal note want to say. I remember one of my friends growing up who lived down the street from me, he really liked Patrick a lot. And for some reason, that line, we'll be rock mates, really resonated with him because his AIM screen name was Rockmate7.
That's cool.
Just a funny thing that I'll never forget, you know? So anyway, yeah, it shows them at night getting ready to go to bed at Patrick's rock.
Yeah, they're both lying down on opposite sides of the rock.
On the ground, worth noting that Patrick's house is no longer dug. There's no like hole dug underneath it.
Yeah, it's all just flat. Which sucks because like they could actually make it work if SpongeBob could live in the sand pit area.
Right.
But apparently
instead,
that's
it's all flat, and they're just using the rock as a blanket.
Yeah, Gary's on top of it as well.
Yep. So they go to bed.
No sign of Shelly.
Yeah, no,
Probably dead.
Shelly's gone. Yeah.
At least the first iteration of her.
So they're both sleeping. They're both getting a little bit cold.
Yeah, they're like kind of poking out of, they're only like halfway covered by the rock.
Right.
Each, and they're on opposite sides because they don't want to be gay, right? And sleep next to each other, I guess.
Yeah, and Patrick is just snoring
Which
very
there's nothing
loudly.
wrong with.
Indeed. Initially, Patrick is just snoring very loudly, and SpongeBob remedies this by putting corks into his own ears.
Well, he puts them in. Apparently, these two holes are specifically where he receives audio.
His ear canal
vibrations.
Holes,
yeah. He's like, I'll just plug up these two holes, and I'm good. I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Okay, what about all the other holes?
Yeah, right.
This is a cartoon, so
anyway,
it's a little thing.
Right. So
because Patrick's just snoring so loud.
So then the wind blows and they start to get cold. Patrick pulls the rock more onto him,
as you would like a blanket.
Right, and SpongeBob is now cold and pulls it back. And they keep pulling it back and forth, and it's just kind of like, why don't you just move your body?
Yeah,
so you can
just
both
move
be
in
under
a little
it.
bit,
right?
You dummies.
They refuse to do it.
Even Gary's kind of like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, like, what the heck, guys? Like, figure it out.
Yeah. So then SpongeBob's like, fine, I guess I don't need the rock.
Yeah, and he covers
and
himself.
He just covers him up with sand.
And he ends
it's
up
like,
going to sleep.
So he's homeless right here. He's just laying in the open, covered in sand.
SpongeBob eventually comes in contact with the river of saliva pouring out of Patrick.
Yeah.
That makes its way all the way over to SpongeBob, and it causes SpongeBob to, what's the word?
To absorb it.
Yeah. And he grows, and he's got a big fat nose, and he's like, the girth of him increases exponentially.
Yeah, and he's like, you know what? You know what's holding all this water in? Obviously, these two corks I put in. So he pulls them out, and then water shoots out, and he goes back to normal.
He waddles over to Patrick and then puts a cork into Patrick's mouth.
A giant one.
Yeah.
He has an extra cork on him.
He's got corks. Yeah. I mean, we know SpongeBob can just manifest things when he wants to.
Yeah.
He builds a bubble stand out of nowhere.
Patrick doesn't have a nose, so this would actually kill him.
Yeah, it would suffocate him.
This is attempted murder for the first time in the series, I think.
Yeah. You know, he's kind of struggling with the cork in his sleep, and eventually he's able to spit it out. And then we get a great joke in the episode that makes no sense, and that's why it's great. He picks up his rock, shows how strong he is.
In his sleep.
Picks up his whole rock while he's still asleep and starts going,
Oh, spiders! Spiders! Get them off me! Get them off me! Get them off me!
Wake up! It's me!
is.
he's just smashing it on the ground where SpongeBob is, and every time he picks it up, SpongeBob like looks different.
Yeah.
He's like circular, like a pancake in one.
Yeah, his eyeballs come out and his arms come off and so on and so forth. He's getting the shit beat out of him by this rock.
Yeah, so he's like, well, I guess I'll just sleep over here, and he runs far away, probably 15 yards or so away.
Yeah, he like runs closer to like where Squidward's house might be.
Yeah, and he like covers himself up in sand again, and he's like, I'm just gonna sleep here, and he's sleeping pretty sound until Patrick has another nightmare and runs over with his rock and just starts beating that area.
It's such a
claiming
great
about spiders again.
Yeah, it's such a great gag that he would find the specific spot where SpongeBob is and just start hammering it away.
And then he just goes back and sleeps under the
goes
rock.
back. Yeah, goes back to where his house is and goes back to sleep.
So then, out of options, SpongeBob shows up with Gary in Squidward's house.
Yeah.
Right? So he didn't even knock at the door or anything. He's just in there poking his nose like, hey, Squidward.
Yeah, he just starts poking him.
Squidward?
Oh, wow.
Squidward, could we stay here a couple of days or a month or two?
Oh, yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, and Squidward, being half asleep, is like,
sure.
oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and then
Thanks. And then
he's
he's like, Squidward, could you scoot over a little? Oh yeah, sure.
and it's funny. He's like, while you're at it, like while you're scooting over,
Yeah, right.
Could you go get me a
Could you
glass
get
of
your
water?
ass out of bed and get me a glass of water, please?
You know that thing that we live under, and I just kind of came through your house to get to here, but could you get it for me?
Yeah. I am a guest in your house. That
Ruining
is a weird,
his own chances.
That is a weird That's like not normal SpongeBob characteristics right there.
Yeah, and we
it's
know
like-
that Squidward has a couch, right, or a chair at least, because he watches TV in it later.
Yeah.
So it's funny to note that SpongeBob felt weird sleeping directly next to Patrick, which would have stopped the whole rock situation, but is very comfortable just sleeping right next to Squidward, right? He lays right in the bed next to him.
Yeah. That is kind of funny. He gets him a glass of water, he drinks it,
Yeah,
and he
he's
goes,
like, thanks.
this is a real swell place you got here, which
Yeah.
is like, you've been there several times already.
Yeah, he's just
SpongeBob.
really playing it up.
Yeah, but he's, I guess, trying to butter him up a little bit to let him stay longer, or
Yeah,
what
and
have you.
And then he makes the mistake of saying goodnight, Squidward, because he mumbles, good night, SpongeBob. And then he realizes what happens.
Good night, Squidward.
Good night, SpongeBob. Good night, SpongeBob.
And you see a close-up of his eyes. This is actually a popular meme, too, is
Oh.
the shot of him with his eyes closed, and
Yeah.
then the shot of him with his eyes bloodshot open as
Yeah.
the glass sound
Yeah.
opens. You know, it's a popular meme.
Sure.
Where people talk about, like, stuff that they don't pay attention to.
Yeah, like almost everything in the show, it is now a meme.
Yeah, Bikini Bottom Twitter on Reddit. Yeah, so then he's like, good night, SpongeBob, and we see him kicking him out of his house.
And then we get a shot of the island above their houses.
Yeah.
And it becomes day. So we don't even know where they stay, how they made it through the night.
Yeah, but somehow between losing everything he owns and today, he ends up with 2 almost bowling bag looking bags and some strange little boy hat.
Yeah, a green hat.
Yeah.
It's funny. This reminded me of in The Simpsons. There's a very small handful of episodes where Bart wears his lucky red cap.
Yeah.
But it's
I
in
do-
there. It's in there enough that it is a thing.
Yeah.
It's established as a thing, but it's only in like 4 episodes
Yeah.
ever.
pretty
And that's
funny.
what it reminded me of.
So yeah, but we actually see Squidward waking up and he's like, today's the big day. And he jumps out of bed,
Yeah.
goes to his closet, and he throws out clothes as he's getting dressed.
Which is a reoccurring thing in the show. He
Yeah,
always
we've
throws his
mentioned.
clothes.
But this time, the only things he throws out are a pair of tighty-whitey underpants and I think a sock or 2.
Right.
Which is funny because he's like, here's all the clothes I need. Here's that shirt. Who needs this underwear and sock? Why does he even own them? He doesn't wear underwear.
He
or
never
socks.
wears these things, right? And it's funny that he would even, I guess maybe he was wearing them to bed. Maybe that's the implication. I'm not sure. It's kind of strange, but I like the idea of him having his outfit picked out and there's underwear and socks and he's just like, don't need those.
Fuck these.
Yeah.
Right, then we see SpongeBob with the bags and the hat. And then SpongeBob's parents drive up. I love it. You know, he's just... Well, first he's kind of telling the guys, like, yep, I gotta go, this and that. His parents drive up, and he's like, come on, SpongeBob, your mother's got dinner waiting.
Yep.
And yeah, it's the first thing in the morning. Why does she have dinner waiting?
Right. The only
It's
thing
just
I
a
could...
parent thing to say. you
Yeah,
know?
it is. Or they live that far away that it's going to be dinner time when they
I
get
sure
home.
hope not.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
So SpongeBob, before he leaves, wants to
Plant his pebble.
get rid of his pebble because it holds too many memories.
Yeah, and it's funny because SpongeBob's like, I'm sorry, Squidward is very into like, oh, let me get those bags for you. Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
he's
Mrs.
trying to
SquarePants.
speed the process up. Patrick is like bawling like a baby.
Yeah.
Just so sad that he's losing his friend. And
He's gotta plant the pebble.
goes back to his house, puts the pebble in the ground like he would a seed, cries. And he
Yeah.
cries, and a little stream of tears trickles down his nose, and one drops off, happens to land right where the seed was buried.
And is enough nutrients to make the seed glow and start growing instantly.
Yep, and Squidward, meanwhile, as it appears SpongeBob is going to leave for good, begins to do a happy dance.
Goodbye, SpongeBob. Bye, bye, bye. And then all at the same time, they're like about to leave, and Patrick is holding the bottom of the boat down so that they can't go because he's screaming.
It's funny
because
you see that Patrick is strong in this episode. He picks up his rock and he's able to stop a motor vehicle from moving.
yeah, he's a big fat strong guy.
Yeah. Squidward's doing his happy dance on the site of SpongeBob's old house.
Yeah, like an asshole.
Lo and behold,
A giant stalk grows out of the ground on the side of the house
yeah,
and spits out a pineapple right where the old one was. As you can see it falling, it manifests windows and a door and the little pipe kind of thing that comes out of his house. And it just falls right on Squidward, a whole new house for SpongeBob.
yeah, perfect. Like with all the fixins, you know.
Yeah, and they run, you know,
Everybody
the Sponge
excitedly-
family and Patrick, they run back. They're like, oh, look, it's great.
It's
And
all here.
Yeah, you can hear SpongeBob. He's like, oh, the refrigerator and this and that. He's like, all of the stuff that he had. So it is kind of funny that we talked about, you know, how did he get the money for all this stuff? It's his first job. But then it's like this plant, this pebble just made everything back for him.
Yeah, it just exists, and it's
Yeah.
just where he lives. There was
Yeah.
no money involved.
Yeah.
You know.
And Squidward, like, you can see him sticking up through the sand on the bottom, like the floor panel of the house.
Yeah. Like so to speak, he's like under the floorboards.
He's
you
all
know?
like, you know, with his arms and legs out and everything, and people are just running by, not saying anything.
Yeah.
But they obviously know he's there.
Yeah,
because, because SpongeBob runs over to him and he's like,
Oh, Squidward, isn't this great? I'm back forever.
forever.
Good
And
version of that.
that's all, folks.
That's it.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good one. Lot of memorable stuff here.
Yeah, I love this one. Like I said, I have, like, between my friend having the screen name and between me drawing scenes from this episode when I was younger, this one really does stick out a lot to me. And honestly, nematodes, like, who can forget nematodes? Nematodes are memorable, and I don't know if they ever come back in this show. They probably...
I don't remember him.
I want to say they do, but I really don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I give this one 13 out of 14 spiders, I think.
Yeah, 13 out of 14. I'm gonna agree with that. I'm just gonna go ahead and agree with that.
Yeah.
So that does it for this rendition of the Striped Sweater podcast.
Yeah,
Let's
hope
see.
you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, hopefully it was a good time for you guys. This one felt a little bit all over the place, but I think it was good overall, and I think these are like we've already said 1,000 times, super awesome, great episodes. We will be back next week with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy and Pickles, which, in my memory, both awesome episodes as well. Can't wait
Very
to
memorable.
Yeah, can't wait to get back with those. I mean, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, come on, like those are classic characters. Some of the best episodes involve them. And Pickles is great as well. Bubble Bass and what have you. So, you can find me on the internet at ASHTONWAGANDHA, pronounced Ashton Waganda. That is my pro wrestling persona. You can find me basically anywhere on the internet under that guise. And hey, gang, please, we're on Apple Podcasts now, so give us a review, hopefully a positive one. But hey, if you have some shit that you want to talk, go ahead and do it, because that's what the feature is there for. I think that does it for me, but thank you so much for listening, guys. And it is our job to, entertain and have fun. And it is our goal to be the quintessential SpongeBob podcast on the airwaves. So thank you so much for helping us out and helping us realize that goal. And we're excited for the future.
You
Zach?
can find me, Zach Main, Manchester_Zach, Mystified, MISTAFYED, all over the internet, different places. Yeah, we're really trying to be the go-to SpongeBob podcast. But also, we're trying to do other stuff too. We like games, we like other shows and media and stuff. So if there's something you think would be interesting to get our take on, be it a YouTube video or a side podcast or episode or something, give us a shout out and let us know. And
Yeah.
we're happy to kind of mess around with this brand that we're trying to build.
We are children of the 90s. So if there's some 90s cartoon that you're like, yo, I'd like to hear you guys talk about that, or what have you, it doesn't even matter. We'll talk about freaking Pete and Pete if you want. I don't care.
Or Yuan Kazoo. I would love it.
Or Zaboomafoo.
Or Freakazoid. Anywho.
Or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a lot of fun, and I think we're gonna continue doing this, and we're gonna try to make this a whole media conglomerate, so to speak. Not really a conglomerate, but like I've said, I have a film degree, and I enjoy doing these type of projects, and I want to do more of them. So in the future, hit us up and let us know, and follow us anywhere you can on the internet if you feel so inclined. We appreciate it so much. Thanks for listening. This is probably going to be our longest episode to date. Hopefully we didn't lose you. If you're here, thank you. And I don't know, Zach, what would you do if there was a drunken sailor early in the morning? What would you do?
If there was one, I'd probably look him dead in the eyes. We lock eyes.
From across the room?
Like a doll's eyes. And then I take a deep breath. And then I give him one of the all.
Thanks for listening, gang. Appreciate
Peace.
you. See you later. We'll be back next week with a sick new episode.
We love you.
Bye.